checklist. Okay, again today, talking about different ways to load a quilt onto the long arm. And just to be clear, this is not going to be instructional how to do all these steps. I'm more looking at the different methods and kind of comparing the pros and cons of them, or why they might fit for you, or maybe if one method doesn't work, another one might work better. So starting again, the first one that I learned to load my quilts with was simply pins. And this is a really low entry level. All you need is a bunch of pins and you're set to go. But here's what's important. You do want very sturdy pins. So I bought what are called corsage pins. They're longer than most sewing pins. They're a full 2 inches and they're very sturdy. So you can get sewing pins like the ones that have the little yellow flower on the end, for example. They're the same length, but they're really not robust enough. You'll have bent and even broken pins on the regular. So go for the corsage pins. Some people call them hat pins. I think hat pins really officially are much longer, but corsage pins work well. T-pins work as well. Just a nice sturdy pin. I've got a little piece of batting in there that's kind of flying around. Okay, so pins. $10 will get you set up and you can go with those. The downsides of pins are a couple. Number one, it takes a bit longer to load a quilt because you have to put several dozen pins nose to tail on each side of your backing. So that takes a bit longer, and inevitably you end up jabbing either your fingers, or what I used to get is the front of my shirts would have holes because you various ways rub up against those pins, and for sure I had quilting shirts because I was always putting holes, lots of holes in the front of them. Oh, there's my husband. Don't tell anyone I'm watching Susan at work. And sound is much better. Everyone's getting that. Deborah's asking, why aren't you in landscape? Deborah, I'll take just a second to answer you. This is a consideration in terms of the platforms that we're on and how they promote my content to people. So kind of new in YouTube is this ability to record a video in vertical mode, and it gets promoted like shorts do. So more new viewers. So Deborah, I do understand the downsides for you, but it works better on some platforms like Instagram. And for the purposes of this month of April, I'm trying to reach as many people and make this as viewable across as many places as I possibly can. So I appreciate your understanding. Most of my official YouTube quilting, like live and unscripted episodes, they're in landscape. So that's why the difference. And it will be this way for the month of April as far as I know. Okay, back to loading. We've talked about pins, a pro and a con. The next method that was introduced to me and that I totally fell in love with was red snappers. So the way red snappers work is within the front edge of your leader, there's a little tiny core. It's the same plastic as the snapper part, but it's just a little core that's fed through that hem. Most long arm brands that I've seen already have a hem sewn in the front, so you can just slide them in and you're ready to go. But if for some reason they don't, then it just needs about a 3/4 inch hem at the front edge of that leader, and that little core slides in there. From there, you lay your fabric over it and you snap the red snapper on. Can you see it's like a C-shaped, and it snaps over top. Fast. I can load a queen size quilt reliably, like the backing, in 10 minutes or less, sometimes 6 or 7. So super, super fast. Your snappers for the top, they come in a set. You have little ones, you have mid-size ones, longer ones that are about a yard. So you start with the yard ones and then you fill in where you need to with the smaller. They're just so fast. The downside of it is this plastic, these snappers can be stiff, especially when you first receive them. So using them makes them more flexible and pliable. But if you do have difficulty with hand strength for some reason, these may not be the perfect solution for you. I have had a couple of people reach out to me and say, I just took my big pieces and I cut it into small pieces because the small ones are easier to clip. So that might be a good solution for you. This is still hands down the fastest method I've seen. Downside, well, hand strength is one. Also, expense is one. They vary from about $90 and up to perhaps $110, $15, depending on how many, what the size of your frame is, and if you have to buy, the extra long ones, etc. So there is that. There is cost. So consider that. They're available. I do have links in most of my YouTube episodes because they are available on Amazon. But the lady who invented them and still manufactures them to this day, her name is Renee, and her shop is Quilts on the Corner. So you can find that online, quiltsonthecorner.com. if you're interested in these, I recommend buying them directly from her and supporting her. I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that. She just receives the benefit of that. So that's a great thing. Anne is saying red snappers can easily be cut to different lengths. Yep, yep. Goat Quilter bought red snappers after watching you. Love them. Yep, Deborah's all good with the uprights. And she's saying she's watching on her phone now, and maybe that's what you guys want to do to make it easier for this month of April, to watch the upright screen. Tiffany, thanks for explaining how the red snapper's attached to the bar. Yep, yep. Cosmic Vision, you remind me of a teacher I used to have. Janice, I want to try my red snappers. I'm already seeing wear on my leaders from pinning and also feeding, like leaders stretching where I do smaller quilts, and only been a few months. Nita is tuning in that she's tried Facebook and Instagram, no sound. Nita, I'm thinking it's on your end because lots of people are chiming in that they do have sound now. So maybe exit out and come back in, give that a try. Okay, that's my red snapper spiel. That was a tongue twister. Okay, a couple other methods which I've experimented with but have not used on the regular. And they involve sewing onto this leader. So one of the upcoming episodes, I'm going to talk a little more in depth about zippered leaders, which means that you can kind of see my zipper right here, right there. The front portion of the leader can zip off and you can take it to your sewing machine fairly easily. So one way then would be to literally baste, use a large basting stitch and baste your backing onto the leader. Certainly an all right method, certainly an inexpensive and easy method. Couple downsides that I see. One of you mentioned it already. If you do that a lot, you're going to get wear on your leader just from needle punctures. You are going to. You know, if you do 10 quilts in a year, you're probably fine. If you do 100 or 150 quilts in a year, you're going to wear out your leaders doing that. It does take a little time to undo the basting as well. And this was the kicker for me. If you're going to attach your backing to your leader and then load it onto your frame, you have to center the backing because the leader at this front end has to exactly match the placement of your backing on the leader at the far end, right? So you've got to center your leader, center your quilt. And then at the far end, know the center of your leader and center your quilt. That takes more time, right? So if you've seen me use my red snapper method, you know I just attach my quilt to the front wherever it's convenient for me and roll it on and then attach the other end, saving that centering or even squaring up process of my backing. So that's what works for me. And then the fourth way is similar, and it would be to use a serger. And again, you're attaching the fabric of your backing to your leader. But sergers more and more commonly are having something called a chain stitch as an optional type of stitch. And it works like, remember the old-fashioned feed sacks or flour bags where you could grab one string and pull it and the stitching would all come out? That's a chain stitch. So there are sergers that will do that. And if you have one, then that is certainly an option, and it's easier to undo than basting at your sewing machine because you just grab that one chain thread and off it comes. Again, same downside as basting at your sewing machine. One, you're going to wear out your leaders if you do it frequently and a lot of quilts just by virtue of stitching through it. And two, you've got to center the backing on the leader at both ends in order for them to align when you attach them back onto your machine. And two, you do need to have the zippered leaders to be able to zip off that front end and walk to your sewing machine and walk back. Many of us do have zippered leaders. Again, with a lot of long arm quilting machines, that's included when you purchase it, but not always. So if you don't have that, then that would be an expense that you'd have to purchase, even though you already have your sewing machine, right? So I think I've covered all four of those. Let's buzz through some comments. Love the red snappers. Linda's saying having trouble getting them straight. Are you meaning the snappers, Linda? Sound is good for a lot more people. Patty, do you need more backing fabric with red snappers? Good question, Patty. You do need a minuscule amount more. You need enough to go over this little core that's in the front of your leader and under this. So it overlaps by, you need an inch overlapping your leader. But when you're pinning, you use half an inch anyway, right? So it's pretty minimal. It's pretty minimal. I've never had to ask my clients to add more. The 4 inches that I started with, I still ask them to add 4 inches, and it's fine. And had to switch to magnets because of my arthritis. Oh, And I'm so glad you said that, Anne, because actually machine stitching and serging to me are kind of one and the same. I did want to talk about magnets, and I kind of left this one till last because it's the one I know the least about because I haven't really used it full-fledged for myself. But essentially it means getting flat bar magnets. Sew Tight is the brand that I see a ton because they're made for sewists and they're quite thin. They have a very slim profile. And so I see quilters literally putting one side of that magnet into their hem, much like I've got my red snapper. And a lot of them will put stitching between them and place those magnets at predetermined spacing along their leader, but basically nose to tail with a little bit of space between them. So magnet all the way along, and then they use the other side of the bar magnet and just tack their backing on there. I think it works fine. Certainly it answers the question of if you don't have hand strength. Certainly it does not poke you like pins do. They're the most expensive method that I've seen. To outfit my long arm for magnets is about $300 because I have a big long arm frame. So that's why I've never gone all in and tried that out. So I can't tell you from firsthand experience, but they are on the pricey side. But they're an investment. So if it's a way that seems easy for you, maybe that's something you do want to invest in and try. I do think it's an easy method. I don't know the answer to this. I question how much strength they have, and maybe lots, maybe plenty when you've got a whole row of them. That's just a question that comes to my mind, and maybe one of you knows the answer and wants to chime in. Nita's got sound now, good. Okay, Linda is saying I have trouble with the quilt being square. I assume that you mean the backing, Linda. And again, I'm going to refer you to watch some of my live and unscripted episodes because many of them I show the loading process. But in short, I always have a straight edge of fabric to do my first end load, which is the one facing me. Most often a selvage, but if not a selvage, I make sure I've got a straight edge. So then when I line it up with my leader, it's straight. And then I roll the backing on and proceed from there. And there's more details about the rolling and how to keep it squared up in those other episodes. But having that initial straight edge of fabric against the straight edge of the leader, that's how I know that it's straight to begin with to load it. Cindy, here's an idea from Cindy. I put in a few pins as if I were going to pin the whole thing and then baste with my long arm using the one stitch per inch setting. I can see what you mean, Cindy. So in case some of you can't envision that, Cindy's just dropping in a few pins, basting it, and then she literally takes her long arm and bastes it in place using one stitch per inch. Great idea. If that works for you, beautiful. I think eventually you're going to wear out your leaders doing that too, anything that involves stitching through it, but one stitch per inch is not a lot, and so maybe that works well for the long term. Nita, the red snappers I found hard to put on and bulky. I love the zippered leaders. I quilt daily. Leaders lasted 360 days, then had to change the zippers. I did stitch over the zipper and ruined it. Good to know. I've not used my zippers on the regular, so I've never worn out a pair, ever in all these years. I've never worn out a pair of canvas leaders either, honestly. So anyway, Anne is saying, I switched to magnets because of arthritis, very spendy but efficient. And see, this is why I'm trying to give you the options, because what works for me might not be the thing that works for you, but there is something that works, I assure you that. Lots of people chiming in. I've gone to using the zippers as I was struggling with keeping things squared up. I've added a piece of grosgrain ribbon to the leaders and zippers so I do not put all the holes in the leaders. That's an excellent tip too. So I assume you mean a little extension. So now you're stitching to that ribbon instead of to the leader itself. That's a great idea because now you can reduce wear on the leaders. Leaders are expensive too, so that's why that would be a consideration. You don't want to be putting a new set on every 6 months if you can help it. Okay, love the Sew Tight magnets. Loads even faster than the red snappers. Interesting. That's good to know. And Anne is chiming in, spendy, but they're very strong. And see, now you've answered my question. They're plenty strong enough, which is good to know. The Quilted Poodle is saying Sew Tights are very strong, have even used them with Minky. Backing magnets are sewn in every 6 inches. There you go. The Quilted Poodle is helping you out because she clearly uses that method and knows more about it than I do. So she's putting in a magnet every 6 inches and they're strong enough even to hold Minky. That is great to know. Great to know. Someone is saying I had tried Sew Tights on my 10-foot frame and the fabric kept pulling out. Ask that question. Maybe the Quilted Poodle wants to chime in on this. I don't have an answer for you, but I know there's lots of quilters that use them successfully, so there must be a good way to manage that. Stitching with the sisterlies. All I know is the red snappers and the way you load your quilts saved my back and time. I adore you for that. Well, thank you. It works for me. It works beautifully. Debbie, I've stayed away from the magnets because I have a pacemaker and they warn you to stay away from strong magnets. I strongly agree with that. And you know, for you, the bars that I use on the top of my frame in my loading system are probably not a good choice either. So know your choices, right? Do what works for you. Okay. We've been on for quite a while, you guys. I think that's going to be it for today. So a brief little recap of what this month looks like. For all of the month of April, I'm going to be coming live every single day on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, different topics each day. So I have some blocked out, but I welcome you to email me with topics that I could include or maybe bundle in with some of the ones I've already got going. So Susan@stitchedbysusan.com to do that. And I'm doing all this because at the end of April, I'm going to be launching another enrollment into my freehand quilting masterclass. So if you'd like more information about that enrollment, about some free patterns and ebooks that I'm offering this month, I encourage you to sign up for my newsletter. And the easiest way to do that is just go to my website, stitchedbysusan.com. You'll get one of those little pop-ups. You know what they look like, and you can just type in your name and email address. And then you'll get my regular newsletter, and lots more information will be coming in there. So thanks for tuning in today. I'll be back tomorrow, again, talking about basting, different methods of basting, getting ready to quilt at some type of sit-down machine. So if you have any interest in that, tomorrow's your time. Share this with your friends, invite them to join in as well. So thanks for joining me today. Have a great day, and I will check in with you tomorrow.